Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how we're going to make a very interesting watercolor painting using our liquid watercolors. So here are the supplies that will be at your tables. I'm going to show you how to use all of them. You are going to need to get your own supplies for the first part, and we are going to be getting a messy mat, a large piece of watercolor paper, and a pencil. Once you grab your supplies, you can go to your seat and I'll show you what we're gonna do next. Let's get started. So now that you are at your seat, the first thing you're going to do is write your name and code. I'm gonna start by just writing my name. Now, once I have written my name, I'll flip my paper over, and now it's time to start painting. Like I mentioned before, you're gonna use liquid watercolors, and I'm gonna turn my tray so it's easier for you to see my colors. And I also have my water here. I'll set that right next to my paint. My goal today is to fill my entire paper with liquid watercolors and a beautiful mixture of my cool colors. I'm gonna use my violet or purple, my green and blue, but I also gave you some pink magenta color just because I thought that'd be fun. We're gonna focus on making an artwork inspired by the Northern Lights, and you probably have just seen some pictures of Northern Lights to give you some inspiration for how we're gonna do this. Today I'm just gonna use my watercolors and make them look like they're blending and moving together. And I'm gonna do this by using water on my watercolor paper, and I can also use some a spray bottle to make my paper wet so I can really mix and paint my colors next to each other. They're gonna blend all together to make a really interesting artwork. My goal is just to fill my paper with colors today. So I'm gonna wake up my brush first, and I can start by just painting whatever color. Because these are liquid watercolors, you dip your brush in the paint, wipe it on the lip so it doesn't drip all over your paper. And now I can start to paint my paper. And what's great is watercolor paper is nice and thick. So I can paint my colors next to each other. Every time I want to switch colors, I rinse out my brush and then I can pick my next color. It might be kind of hard to see which color is which on your paper. So you might have to use your eyes and really look to see which color is which. And again, I'm painting my colors next to each other. Now, what's great is that as I'm painting, I can just paint my colors right next to each other like you see I'm doing here. Or maybe I even want to start to use my spray bottle and make my paper a little more wet and make them blend and mix. So here's the other tool you have on your tray. You will have to share this with your friends, but I can take my spray bottle, it's full of water, and I can start to spray on my paper. Now, I know you can't see that right now, but if I spray over my colors, you see how it's exploding? That's super cool. So I'm gonna start to paint over what I just sprayed, and I can either paint polka dots and watch them grow, or I could just go ahead and paint my colors next to each other like I've been doing. You're gonna finish your paper however you would like. I'm gonna go ahead and keep painting mine right now. You can watch along as I finish it, and then I'll show you the last thing we're gonna do to your papers to make them look even more interesting so they're inspired by our Northern Lights. And there we go. So my whole paper is painted now, and you can see it's kind of warping or moving. That's just because it's really wet. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do one last thing. We're gonna add some salt over our painting, which will make our colors look like they're exploding. It's a very cool technique. If your paper happened to dry in a place where you already painted, you might wanna spray it just one more time with your spray bottle. And the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come around with some salt, and I'm gonna take your hand, I'm gonna put it in the hand that you do not write your name with. So I'm gonna pour a little bit of salt on your hand, not too much, just a tiny bit, and we're gonna actually pinch and sprinkle it over our paper. So watch how cool this is. I'm gonna pinch and sprinkle, and it might not show you the effect just yet, but what happens is when the salt meets the water and the wet paint, it starts to make some really cool explosion details. So again, you can see I'm sprinkling it all over, not just in one space. My goal is to try and sprinkle it all over my paper, all over my colors. If I have some extras at the end, I just sprinkle my hands together. I'm not putting it on the ground, I'm just sprinkling it over my paper. So now you can see I have all my color, and as it dries, it's gonna make those really cool, interesting details. We will use this paper as our background next week for our Northern Lights artworks. I hope you guys enjoy mixing your watercolors and creating a really colorful artwork. As always, happy creating!